Thank you again for being here with us at Progress Annual Conference. It's fantastic that you have all come to join us. The person who is speaking next, as they say in politics, needs no introduction. And in fact, if you think that she needs any introduction, then you must have been living on the moon for the past month, because I don't think that there is a media outlet in this country that has not heard from her. So, ladies and gentlemen, she is phenomenal. Speaking purely personally and selfishly, she's made my life in Westminster so much better. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the one and only Jess Phillips. Baby girl.
I actually made it. We don't have to clap for me. Good stop now.
We're gonna have a bit of Q&A, but first of all, Jess, give us your thoughts.
Okay. So when Alison asked me to do this, she said, I just don't want a man in a suit behind a lectern. And so here I am, a woman. I am sort of in a suit, but I did genuinely intend to wear a dress, but I thought that me doing this on this stage was happening later on in the afternoon. And so I texted Ali this morning, I said, I'll be with you for 1. And she said, oh, well, we're on at 10:30, Jess. And I was in my pyjamas in Birmingham. And I had been up for till quite late last night feeding hundreds and hundreds of my constituents, and all I can say is I'm very glad that it was a Muslim affair, because it did mean that this morning I didn't have a hangover to add to that stress. I did just shout very loudly at my husband this morning, "Buy me some tights!" And he did not find me any tights. So as you can see, I am wearing a suit. But I am without lectern, and I thought last night at said iftar event in my constituency, that maybe my approach to winging things was not best, when a number of journalists rang me and texted me and said, could you send us your speech that you're going to make tomorrow? And I was like, I mean, I haven't written one, so I could give you some brief thoughts, but I have decided to wing it like I always do. And the main reason that I thought I should wing it and stand without a lectern is because what I want to say is that the future of all politics, and especially the Labour Party, is that we need to break down the parameters that we have set for ourselves. There are walls all around our political debate that need to be smashed, and we need to change the way that we think about almost everything and the way that we do almost everything, because the country went and changed entirely while we carried on still talking in the same way that we have always talked. The rise of fascism is not something just for column inches. It is a reality across the world. As I was coming here, I was on Twitter, mainly writing the lyrics of 90s R&B in order to have a go back at somebody, which is my joie de vivre. But in Alabama yesterday, they tried to pass legislation without taking a roll call vote to mean that anyone who had an abortion would end up in prison for 99 years. These are not the people in the houses, these are the people behind the podiums. We have a serious crisis across the world where progressive politics is taking an absolute battering, and we have to find a way to fill that space and fight back. And if we do it the way that we have always done it, we are going to let them win, because we play by rules all the time that they do not give a toss about. They do not recognise our rules, our legitimacy, our decency. When a man who says that whether he would or wouldn't rape me becomes part of a legitimate debate in our country, where it is now a legitimate debate to say whether that was okay, We have lost the argument. And they didn't care that in the past decency meant that political parties didn't let people like him stand. Though we didn't write down those solid rules because we thought, well, that's never going to happen. And then it happens. But the Labour Party has got to break down all of those rules, and it has got to do that by being brave. We have got to stop seeking constant workshopped approval and start seeking respect from the country, because when decisions need to be made in politics, the country will not come with you if the way you made that decision was 7 weeks of agonising debate, a 10-hour meeting with a name and an acronym they don't understand or care about, and what you came out with was, well... These are depressing times when we cannot fight fascism, we cannot give out our ideas, we cannot be who we should be and just be proud of it. The country doesn't want us to pander to them. It wants us to listen and act. Every single day, and in the last week, I have had 9,000 emails from people telling me that they wish to show me their support, and almost every single one of them starts with the line, I am an ex-Tory, I am not from your political persuasion, I don't always agree with you. They're putting me quite firmly, telling me who they are, and they say, but I like that you say what you think. I'm glad that you're brave. I'm standing with you even though I won't always agree with you. Now, I won't always agree with me, even. I've had to send 3 messages this morning to my husband to apologise for my appalling behaviour this morning. That was within the space of an hour. I also didn't agree with me. The country doesn't mind if it doesn't always agree with every tiny little thing that you're doing. But if you only do tiny things, they won't see you at all. And we have got caught up in a conversation that was given to us by Margaret Thatcher before I was born about the very poorest and the very richest. And we constantly couch every single policy term in terms of goodies and baddies. The left do it, the right do it, and it has got to end because... Because of course we don't want to see people starving. Of course I cry every week I'm in my constituency office when welfare has been removed from people who desperately need it. But I don't think that the only answer to the idea of welfare or social security is to assume that we have to give something to somebody who is waiting for us to save them. It can no longer just be about the way that the conversation has always gone. And I feel this as a feminist, that every conversation I have, every platform I stand on, is couched in the terms that was given to me by a man. And when I stand up and speak, people will constantly say, oh, well, yeah, she's great and all that jazz, and I really like her, she's funny, which, obviously I like when people say that. But they will always then go to that I talk about myself, that I am a lightweight, that I'm not basically a man with a decent haircut in a suit. And so for the parameter that they have given themselves in political discourse is only to understand politics and policy from the point of view that they have experienced it, and the country has gone ahead and experienced something entirely different. And the best example I can give of this, I was talking to Alison on the phone yesterday, and I said the first line of defence of any country, any government, the one single role of any government that if you were to ask literally any man on the street, they would say is the security of our nation. Safety and security matters more than anything else. But what people say when they say that, and what they see when they say that, is they see men in fatigues standing on battle lines, and they see police in uniform standing in front of a riot that is going on, and they think it is our government's responsibility to keep us safe. But for half of the country, security is not within those parameters. That is not what safety and security looks like. Because for women, it is our homes and our front doors where we feel unsafe, and in places where we work. And so when policymakers stand up and speak only within the parameters that they have always spoken, they will always exclude, and nothing will progress ever. There is only one way to win, and we can win back. Both Labour can win, and the goody side in progressive politics can win back against fascism. But we will only win it if we strive always to say what we feel and say what people are feeling. There are huge questions to answer going forward. The world of work is about to change immeasurably, much more so even than the Industrial Revolution, which the place where I come from still harks back to as if it were yesterday, and you would think that everybody who lived where I live actually invented the steam engine. And me too, I'm a big fan of the Black Country Museum. I love those engines. But what we are about to go through, the country needs answers to, and it does expect the state to have those answers. Left-wing politics only ever rises when the country can't cope, and we are in a stage where the country cannot cope. We have a real opportunity to be the solution that the country needs, and we will never, ever do it if what we do is, instead of seeking to progress, is that we play in the Conservatives' territory and we just seek to conserve and restore. Because that is what the Labour Party is to me today. It is constantly just trying to put back things it wished it hadn't lost. We have not got to talk about what we have lost. We have got to talk about what we want. Only truly progressive politics can do that, but it shouldn't feel squeamish, and it shouldn't care about being politically correct, because when people tell me I'm really politically correct, what I hear is you think that I'm not an arse. That's like good to me. I feel good when people say to me, oh, you and your political correct snowflakery. But we have got to be brave, and we have got to stop workshopping the decisions that we make until they change nobody's lives. We can no longer just seek to conserve. We have to. Even when our own side attacks us, we have to believe that progress is the thing that we should be aiming for. So I shall leave you with my comments and now go to Alison and ask her. Oh, you're very kind. Right. Don't stand up. I feel like I did.
Take your praise. All right, sit down. Sit down, right. Take your praise, I just said to Jess. Take your praise, sister. Also, Martin Angus is here.
Oh, I love Martin Angus.
Yeah, who I've been wanting to do this all morning, who got a massive big award off Prince William yesterday.
Ooh, he's top royal.
So Martin Angus also, take your praise, massive servant.
Woo!
So now we have got a range of questions and a range of ways in which we are going to get the questions, including from the Twitter. Now, Jess is known as being like Ms. on fire on the Twitter, so we better watch out. You can stand up. You can sit down if you want to.
No, I'll stand up.
Okay. So I am going to take the first question. I said before that you know, on a personal level, make Westminster a better place to be, which, speaking selfishly, is important to me, if no one else. And I guess one of the things that I've always wanted to ask you, Jess, is like, I kind of get the sort of like get in there, you know, fight them all, rip it all up thing. But like, what was that first moment when you thought, I know, I've got an idea, I could be an MP? Like, what made you think that, and why did you do it? Given how frustrating it can be at times, why did you want to be an MP?
Genuinely, I had a crystallising moment when I had to spend an afternoon with Chris Grayling. And I used to run a female offenders centre, and when they privatised the offender estate and probation, we all had to go to a consultation, which no government consultation has ever changed its mind to all those people who spend hours and hours and hours, and I was one of those people putting in things to a government consultation. You're going to get what they were going to give you in the first place. They're just pretending to tap your head. So I went along to a head tapping session, and Chris Grayling was there, and there were some people from Whitehall, civil servants from the Ministry of Justice, and it was about a payment by results model. And I said, so if I do the work through the gate with the prisoners in Stafford, and then they move to Durham, where they come from, and then they don't reoffend, who in the contract gets the money? Is it my through the gate activity or the now privatised probation service in Durham? And they were like, oh yeah, we hadn't really thought of that. You mean the people don't go to their local prison? And I was like, local prisons for local people is not a thing. And then I just thought, I know more about this than these people. I should probably try and get into their position, because they are, at best, very dim. And I thought Chris Grayling managed to rise to the very, very top, and he was the Justice Secretary. I would give my right arm to be the Justice Secretary. And I thought, well, if he can do it, it was a bit like Fight. It was like, I can't believe that I spend all this time becoming an expert and being brilliant with this group of people, and these people are the ones who ultimately have power over them. And so I thought, well, we can't have that. I should go and be one of them.
You shall not put. So, right, who is gonna go next? Heather, go for it.
Yeah. So I'm afraid I'm going to use Brexit.
Oh, hang on a minute. No, microphone. You can talk about
No,
Brexit.
you can't talk about
Oh,
Brexit.
I can't talk
You
about
can
Brexit.
talk about
yes.
Brexit, but just not without a microphone.
That's fine. So, I mean, one of the real key problems is that the media loves to talk about Brexit and say, oh, the people voted for this. And they've got the grievance that will all be solved if we come out of Brexit. And most of Brexit's problems, certainly in the East Midlands, is to do with underinvestment, which is going to get worse if Brexit. And also, sort of like looking to the future, as you said, the massive changes in automation and work. We really can only tackle that as a big global bloc. So I wonder how you actually persuade the media to get off the agenda of sort of like the Nigel Farage of respect the people's what they said originally, and actually get on to tackling their real grievances and show that it were best in Europe to tackle those grievances.
I mean, trying to get the media, certain sections of the media, to say anything is a waste of my time, to be perfectly honest, because then, you know, the Mail is never going to go full-throttled Europhile, is it? Let's face it. But the people thing, it really bothers me. I hate it, never more than when Theresa May does it, actually. I know Farage is he's a rich theme of disdain and gags. But actually, Theresa May, when she stands up and she says the will of 17.4 million people, it bothers me so deeply, because they don't care about those people. They are using them for the ends. It is just another head-tapping exercise where politicians of all hues, the people on the Remain side do it too, they pick the figures and they decide what they're going to decide regardless of what people are actually saying. The way we need to change what happens now with Brexit, in my opinion, is there needs to be it's a process with the country, which the media obviously would have to be involved with. There needs to be a way of getting to a conclusion. I obviously wish to remain in the European Union, And actually, do you know what? If I did a thing recently where in the media where it was if you were the Prime Minister for the day, and I'm genuinely thinking like this, I've only got one day, what am I going to do? And I was like, well, I'd revoke it, obviously. If I only had one day, I've got no time for like a referendum, which is obviously my preference, but I just got one day, I would revoke it. And he said, well, the people would hate you. I said, do you know what? They probably wouldn't after about a week. They were like, oh God, that's over. It's not what I would have wanted. And that's what I'm trying to say is we're frightened of the public. We're absolutely terrified of them. And I've no idea why we're terrified of them.
Now, pause right there, because the video question actually relates to this. So I've waited my whole life to say this. Roll VT.
Hi Jess, my name's Jamie and I'm a Newcastle Labour activist. My question is, if you were the leader of the Labour Party today, what would your Brexit policy be?
There you go. Well, if I had one day, I'd revoke. But I mean, in this thought experiment, I didn't even have a day. I had half an hour. So I would genuinely just revoke it if I only had half an hour. But my policy now would be to put. Well, if I was the Prime Minister, if I became the Prime Minister, I would probably try and go without Theresa May's red lines to Brussels and come up with a better deal than the one that we currently have. And then I would ask for that to be put to the people.
Simple as.
That would be my Brexit policy.
Simple as. There you go, Jamie. Now, let's throw caution to the wind and go for the Twitter question.
Oh, God. Would you?
Oh, good Lord. Right, okay. How worried should we be about the rise of... It's appropriate that this is on Twitter, isn't it?
Yeah.
How worried should we be about the rise of hate in politics?
Very, 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 very worried. They are currently winning, and we are facilitating that win in the Labour Party, in my opinion, because we join in. If you're talking about broader hate, half the hate I have had in fact, more than half, 90% of the hatred I have had this week was from the left.
Okay, well, we will come on to...
I mean, we should be very, 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 very worried. And we should be acting every day with every fibre of our being to stand up against it.
And this conference is about what we do about that. Friends, we'll come back to the floor in a second, but first, another video question. This is so cool, isn't it?
Hi, I'm Maya. I'm 17 and I'm from Cardiff. And I wanted to ask you why you think people should join the Labour Party right now. Thank you.
Go on. Well, I mean,
you answer it.
I think people should join the Labour Party right now because we have the right structure for taking on this hate. We are a big movement. This has loads of different people. You can be a trade union activist, you can join a socialist society, you can join LGBT Labour, you can join Labour Irish. We have loads of routes in, and that way of bringing loads of different people in means that we can all listen to each other, and listening is the first step to dealing with hate, and that would be my answer, because we're a big, broad movement that can deal with it and can get our heads around it. But Jess, why should people join the Labour Party?
I would agree with that. I think that if you don't join something, you got no right, if you don't take part somehow in doing something, you've got no right to be cross when it's messed up. So I think that what I would say to a 17-year-old is that the Labour Party is a brilliant and historic organisation that has always attempted to answer the big questions for the majority of people. But it won't do that in the future if you don't join in and it doesn't remain thoroughly that. And if you don't, then you're going, appeasement. Evil rises when good men do nothing. And I just think that you've got to be in it to fight for it to be better personally. Although, it would be hard. It would be hard for me to... It's very hard to encourage young people to get involved in debate when they're going to get silenced and shouted at. But there's got to prove that there's more of us that will defend them than that will attack them.
Exactly. Right. Coming back to the floor. Okay, the gentleman in the green shirt there, just to warn everybody in advance, I will be taking an equal number of men and women. So, women, if you don't put your hands up, I will start volunteering you at random. Off you go, sir.
Hi. Obviously, the Brexit process is putting a strain on the broad church of both of the Conservatives and the Labour Party. And in your personal opinion, which do you think is in more peril right now of
Cracking up.
splitting? Yeah, completely.
The Conservative Party is in lower peril of cracking up. The Conservative Party is always in lower peril of cracking up because power, all of this is about power. The problems in society are all about power and control. And I'm a scholar of power and control from working for years and years in the women's movement. And power is so ruthless, it will do almost anything to survive. And the Tories, remember that they are conserving something. They weren't born to fight. They were born to conserve. They will conserve themselves against almost anything. And even the really goody ones who are saying, if Boris becomes the leader, I'll leave the Conservative Party. I'm not entirely sure that many of them will, in reality. And even if they did, Boris's wing would just take the space and the Conservative Party will survive. The Labour Party is always in a much more perilous position. It just hasn't existed for as long either. Its roots are not as deep, and it doesn't value power anywhere near as much as the Conservative Party does.
Okay. Another one from the Twitter sphere. Okay, how does Labour get to a place again where we can debate policy, remember when we used to do that, without character assassinations and assumptions of bad faith? All the easy ones, Jess.
I think, first of all, it needs to not discuss policy for a while, because actually all the data will tell you that, I mean, I know that the European elections are going to be a bit of a damp squib, but all of the data will show you that at the moment the country doesn't care that much about policies. If you could find me more than 50 people in my constituency who read the Labour Party manifesto, I will give you £1 million. The country wants a story. The country needs a story and hope and fight. That is the thing it can get behind. And then it wants to talk about what you're going to do for it. And so until the Labour Party is on the right page with the story, we're never going to be able to go back to discussing policy without bad faith. Because it doesn't matter what I say or do. People genuinely have accused me, and this would have been an incredibly long con on my part, of only caring about women's rights issues because it's a means for me to attack Jeremy Corbyn. I'm like, yes.
That was a
back
lot
in
of
2004,
effort you put into that.
I thought, one day he will rise. I must have a thing that divides me and him. Otherwise, this will never work.
Okay. Let's go for more questions from the floor. Yes, the lady in the grey there. Yes, with the lovely beads. I do like beads. They're from Ceylon.
I thought you said they were from Asda.
Phenomenal. The lady
from
with the
Ceylon.
beautiful beads from Ceylon. The floor is yours.
Made by the
Ceylon.
workers.
That's better than Asda.
I'm really your approach to politics. I really like.
Oh, thanks.
But I'm talking about political correctness, how it shuts people up.
Yeah.
And my main concern is about the sexualisation of children. Now, I've been called a racist because...
Of not wanting girls to wear headscarves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been told to be quiet in my local Labour group. And, I mean, you know, to me, it's wrong. But what can I do? I mean, political correctness is where things
Both sides
like
can use it.
hate in politics makes it bubble up.
Yeah.
If there's a way of expressing things without insulting people that you don't want to do, but how can you say these things? Thank you.
The thing is, the people that you're offending by saying that are not involved in it necessarily. there is one thing that I think that the Labour Party has got wrong for many, many years, bearing in mind that 50% of my constituents are Pakistani and Bangladeshi, is the idea that migrant communities can't change or have conversations. These are people who walked across continents to change their lives. They definitely are fine with having conversations about things that might need to change. And the Labour Party, where I live, and the Labour Party generally, is the party of black and minority ethnic groups. No two ways about it. What I really hope is that that loyalty to the Labour Party that engenders, and I benefit from, no two ways about it, I hope it doesn't serve those people poorly because we don't invite them into conversations and we assume, it's a bit like white saviour, like I'm saying about poorer people or women, where we assume that we know what is best for them. Now, I don't find it difficult in my constituency. I went to a mosque meeting the day before the 2017 general election. It couldn't be held at the mosque because there was too many people who wanted to come, and so I held it in, not I didn't hold it, they held it in the local leisure centre. I went along, in fact, one of the Tories went along as well, and I said, you're telling me you want me to come to this community meeting to talk about the mosque. If I turn up and it isn't the community that is represented, and it is just men, I'm going to be really annoyed and I'm going to leave and I won't speak and I won't stay. And they said, oh yeah, of course, no worries, all right. They didn't say, you hate my faith and you think that we're all massive sexists. They said, okay, and then some women came along to the meeting and talked about what they wanted from the mosque as well. And no, everybody went out and voted for me the next day, and I literally know, because I know the streets where that mosque is, and literally only 4 people didn't vote for me on those streets. And one of them was the Lib Dem candidate, I think, so, you know.
That's why you should always do your voter ID, folks.
This is what we're constantly scared of the public, whether it's BME public, whether it's the white working classes, and we constantly forget that BME people are also working class.
Yeah.
I mean, it's infuriating. We don't need to be scared to have conversations. I come from a really conservative part of Birmingham, Islamically conservative part of Birmingham, and they vote for me. Angry, feminist, you know, wears a low-cut top, smokes a fag in the street. You know, these people, we should stop putting them in categories as if they can't have conversations, and we should stop being frightened of the public constantly. We should lead with our chins in most things, because even when people don't agree with you and there is a conversation to be had, they still respect you. And so I think that the whole, like, you shouldn't be allowed to say this about this community, you shouldn't be allowed to say that about that community. If there is genuine conversation, that is fine. You just shouldn't be able to hate them. That's the difference. If you hate all Muslims because some young girls wear a headscarf to school, then you're wrong. If you think that there is a conversation to be had around religious observance at school, or specifically around the age that it seems to be sexualising, that's fine. Do you know, I could find you millions of Muslim women who'd be happy to have that conversation with you, and not all of them would agree with you. And that's okay.
Do we have another video question? Was that a nod, Joe? Yeah, light's quite bright.
Hiya, I'm Georgie and I live in Edinburgh. So my question is, the leader and the deputy leader, the leader in Scotland and the leader in Wales are all white men. Yeah. So why does the Labour Party find it so hard to elect women into positions of power?
It's the $64,000 question, folks. And I think we could literally have this question all day at this conference and still not find the answer, but Jess.
I think I know the answer. I think it's because of what I said about power, and power, how it holds on to itself, and equality feels like oppression to those who have to share the space. The fact of the matter is, the reason that the Tories have and that the Labour Party hasn't managed this is because that the women who put themselves forward in the Conservative Party don't break the power dynamic mould. They don't say, I'm going to smash it up and take away the power as it has always existed.
They don't pull the greasy pole out of the ground and start whacking people with it.
They do deals with the people they know they have to keep happy, and they say, you know, I'm not going to have a feminist agenda. And Labour women classically don't do that. Labour women have never done that. They have always, all of those that might have ever risen to the top said, do you know what? We need change, we need to smash it up. And the Labour Party, no matter how liberal it is and no matter how it doesn't want to have conversations about the things that you were talking about, it holds on to the power structure as it knows, and that comes from the union movement, it comes from a patriarchal system, and so it can't let go of that. And so when people like me and Ali come along and say, we're not just going to take your party, we're going to smash it up and make it a better party where everybody can dance, they go, oh, hang on a minute, this is not the party that we wanted. Also, there are just loads of rampant sexists in the Labour Party, aren't there, as well? I mean, that's just a...
But anyway, on a happier note, one of the women who Jess and I owe our careers to is here. And so can we all just have a massive round of applause for Fiona McTaggart?
Woohoo!
Fiona built the path that Jess and I walked along.
She was going to smash it all up, everything, constantly. Let's smash it. Love it.
Chief Smasher, Fiona McTaggart, we thank you and we applaud you. Have we got a last Twitter question? Okay. Jess, let's finish with this. Jack asks, how do you stay hopeful? But bigger than that, why should we all be hopeful?
I mean, I stay hopeful, I'm naturally just quite I like happiness better than sadness. I pick to be hopeful, and it is a slog. We have to pick to be hopeful. People always think that, people constantly say that I am authentic and that I say what I think, but there is a huge amount of effort actually that goes into taking the deep breaths and digging deep and being brave enough to do it. It doesn't come just naturally. I have to think about doing it, and I have to tell myself to be hopeful. I mean, maybe I could lend the entire Labour movement my husband.
Tom Phillips is great.
He's a great man. He is Josh in the audience, who goes climbing with him regularly. He's like, he's all right. Which is that he's all right would be the highest form of praise my husband could ever receive. He would think that that was amazing. And so when you live with somebody like that, like everything is hopeful, because it's just like he doesn't understand why anybody gets upset about things. Genuinely, he's just like, I mean, this morning when I was like, I'm going to be really late, he was like, just don't go, and I was like, that's a really helpful suggestion. I learned very
you could have had 2 hours
quickly
with me instead.
From him that worry will do nothing to change tomorrow, but it will ruin today. And you have to just keep going. There is no other option, and so I don't know why we pretend that there is. Like when you have a baby, it's hideous. The first 8 weeks of your first baby's life is literally hideous, but you've got no alternative, have you? You've got to just keep on going. And we have to just keep on going, because I'm far more scared of doing nothing than I am scared of fighting. It's far more frightening when people say to me, well, when people threaten your children, doesn't that make you want to give up? I think if I'm giving up in the face of people threatening the lives of my children, what are you letting in? There is something down the line that is going to be way worse. So you have to remain hopeful and positive and seeking progress, because otherwise, they're going to win. So if you can be motivated by nothing else, spite.
Right.
It's a fine motivator.
Before we finish, and I mean, this has been a really, really good session, but before we finish, I think the lady here had just one final question to finish.
Thank you very much. Morning.
Morning. Afternoon, whatever it is.
Monica Threlfall. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I just want to ask Jess, since we're about to go into an election in a few days' time, what do you say about the EU that you think is the most convincing way of persuading them to vote Labour?
I don't tend to talk to people about the EU where I live. Yeah, that is definitely a historic problem. The main historic problem that we had with the EU is that we didn't talk about ourselves as being part of it. And that we didn't say it was us making all those rules. As an equalities campaigner, I am desperately worried about what happens when Britain leaves the European Union, because actually the people making all those progressive legislation in Europe was the United Kingdom. So I'm very, very worried about what happens now. And anyone who thinks that health and safety laws come from the European Union have clearly never been to a holiday villa in Spain. You can plug your hairdryer into the shower. I mean, the idea that that isn't a British safety standard is amazing. But what I think that it's far too late to now be having that conversation with people in my constituency and people in the country who, they don't hate the European Union, they don't hate Europe, they don't hate Europeans, they hate the establishment. And because they've been told to very successfully. So I wouldn't have that argument with them. The way that I will campaign is not particularly progressive or hopeful, but it is the campaigning of my cynical father, which is what he told me when I was a kid, is we don't vote for what we want, Bab, we vote for what we don't want. And I don't want our nation to be represented by fascists at the moment. So the best argument I have, the one that actually talks to people's hearts and their idea of what it means to be British, is to fight the rise of fascism, and that where I live, there's a very real possibility that Nigel Farage's party will make gains, and I have to make that argument to them, but only on a UK basis, talking to them about Europe. The only thing that would ever work with my constituents is their jobs, because they all work at Jaguar Land Rover and the airport. They didn't write to me about the climate stuff, I have to say.
Okay, so we go forward, we fight the fascists, we take them on, we look them in the face, and we say, they shall not pass. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to put your hands together. She is phenomenal. Please thank Jess Phillips.